Kirk, it's Friday. Well,
Uh,
it's Thursday, but it's
for
Friday.
it's Thursday for us, Friday for you good folks listening. Um, right away, the feng shui in your office is different. You have what's the occasion for a new shoe on the wall? You have not replaced or removed shoes, and there's a new pair of shoes on the wall.
It's when you know I'm running again.
Okay, what shoe is that? I'm having a hard time deciphering.
This beauty is on my all-time GOAT list. The Nike Lunar Racer 3.
Mm.
I think the 3 was the pinnacle of the Nike Lunar Racer, which by today's standards would be a minimal, hyper flexible, stripped down racing shoe. And by the old standards, this was one of the first max cushion racing shoes.
It just looks like nothing. That's so funny. That must mean you went out and did a workout in them. You got the warm and fuzzies, and they went on the wall afterwards.
The opposite, actually. I pulled a shoe off the wall to do a workout.
And you had to replace it.
It was downstairs in the basement when I set up to record, so I grabbed the next bright colored shoe from next to me. I'm surrounded by shoe racks here and popped them up there.
I guess half the listeners don't care at all about this, but I'm just now personally curious is how you decide. So for the folks that don't watch us, which we don't have episodes on YouTube now, but we were for a while. Point being, Brakken's shoe wall is right behind where he talks. You've probably all seen it. And you can only see 3 pairs of shoes. And Brakken, how many shoes do you own at the moment that may or may not be in your rotation?
Let's just say 80, 90.
Oh God, is that for real? They're in the rotation. You have 80
in the
pairs
rotation, probably 35.
All right. Well, that is worse than I thought.
Yeah, well, because I have them. I don't need them all. I wouldn't seek them out, but if there's like my basement has just 10 racks of shoes and I walk down there and if I see them and they spark some joy, I just pop them on for the day.
You don't need 3 pitching wedges in your bag, though.
No,
right?
but if you have 3, one day you're going to be like, man, this one feels better in my hand.
Probably. Okay.
Options are worse sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, you also, this is your career. So I didn't know you had that many because I told somebody in the gym, they asked, because they got their first real pair of like, I would call like super shoes to train in. And they had their one pair, right? And they asked me how many I had. And I said, I probably have 20, 25 that I have used in the last year. And they made me feel real bad about my problem in quotes. And so you're making me feel better. But the point I'm getting at is, okay, out of your 80 pairs of shoes, how do you decide the 3 that I get to look at that you have on the wall? Like those Puma fuel cells or whatever. What are those on the bottom? Are those New Balance?
Oh, New Balance, RC Elite ones.
Those haven't moved in forever.
No.
How do you decide?
Well, the shoe wall started as my GOAT. Like all the greatest of all time shoes. My favorite shoes I've ever run in. I used to have rows and rows and rows, but as we found out on here, you can't really see most of them. And then some were half on screen, partially on. So I just reorganized it to just 3 pairs. It can be 6, or 6 individuals or 3 pairs, but it's just my favorite shoe in that moment, color coordinated currently.
Okay.
But like I have multiple pairs of the RC Elite ones. And one of them is like a quarter size too small. So that's these. They don't have to move because I never grab them.
They're not in use right now.
No, like if I went barefoot and like I'd run a road mile, or in fact I did in that shoe. But if I have regular size socks on, they just feel too snug. I don't like them.
Yeah, my shoe wall would be 3 different pairs of the exact same model of Alpha Fly.
Yeah.
Just the ones that I burned through. I found a pair on StockX last week for like $260, the original Alpha Fly Next Percent, and I jumped on that immediately.
Gotta.
Yeah. All right.
Around here, I have the Scott, the RC. What do they call that?
Super Track RC.
Super Track RC2s. Those are sitting there. I have the like Hoka Evo Jaws. Like all the shoes that are just clearly the best shoes we've ever run in. Just sit here.
You just like sort of like swim in them in your office.
Yeah, I'm just surrounded by royalty at all times.
I wish you could show us right now and the listeners could somehow see this as they're listening, because I'm sure it's a spectacle.
And again, this is like there are maybe 20 pairs up here right now. All the rest are in the basement.
Now, my shoe room is in a closet. They're on racks. And like, for example, on the treadmill uphill work, like I will sweat all the way into my shoes. They could be wrung out
Mhm.
when I'm done with a big uphill session. I think that's fairly common in these summer runs. Like there is a slight shoe must in that closet, but I'm not going to go sit in there and work in there and podcast in there. So are you like hotboxing yourself in your own
No, I've
shoe
no
froth?
odor.
Okay.
I'm pretty fanatical about getting my shoes on the boot dryer the moment I take them off after
Mm,
a workout. Not the moment, but like we have a laundry chute in our house. It's an old house, so
mm,
it goes from the third floor down into the basement, and so it pools up down there. So when I finish a workout, oftentimes I just plop my stuff right there, and then my boot dryer is 5 feet from there. So I take the shoes, get it right on there,
mm,
circulate that warm air. I really don't have any shoes currently in my roster that have like a real odor to them.
mm. Okay. Well, my answers are I'm satisfied. My curiosity has been
Okay.
scratched. You're going to spring an episode on me today?
Oh yeah, yeah, I am. And this is really good. We are at 6 minutes and 14 seconds right now. This is a very short intro.
I'm working on it.
I think it's good to go off the rails sometimes. So I had some people message me after our rebuttal to the Instagram coach influencer who gave the elevation equation. Not one of them told me they agreed or disagreed with me. I think you
Okay.
got the feedback. I got the requests.
Okay. Well, you're talking to our initial episode, not our Training Tuesday from this week.
Correct. The initial episode where we took someone's Instagram post that said, here's all you need to do to decide how much vertical gain you need on a run. And then you got some people saying, I agree or disagree. Same thing with the drug episode. I agree, I disagree. I don't get those. I get people asking for other things.
Okay. So
Interesting.
are you leading me somewhere here?
Yeah. So I have 4 listener submissions here of other Instagram advice that they have
Oh.
seen or received that they want our opinion on.
Oh, I have gotten none of that.
Yeah, it's interesting how you get emotions and I get requests.
Do you know these people who sent this to you like
2 of the
fairly well?
4, I am familiar with who they are. The other 2, I am not.
Well, when I say I get the emotion, like I mostly check the running public account.
That's also
So
fair.
it's also directed at both of us, but I'm touching it. So
That makes it more
it's
live.
more even than you think
Got it.
probably. But no, I would be very curious to see and hear what we have coming up.
So I would say we always have themes. We always seem to have themes in our questions. The theme for this would be the classic running questions. I've been on letsrun.com since the tail end of college. So call it 2010. So I've been using their forum and their website for 15 years. And I would say a version of these questions all appear every single year. Like going back to my first foray into that site, which I've said before has a lot of use, but mostly cesspool.
Hmm.
My first foray into that site on these have been constants. So apparently the running influencer community still hasn't solved this. And I don't think it's solvable because most of these are opinion based, which is going to make for a great 4-part opinion based episode today.
All right.
All
So
right.
we're gonna go through them all today.
All of them. That's the goal.
All right.
Call it
So
15 minutes max per question.
that's what we got.
All
Max
right.
per question.
Number 1. Sorry, I'm on the verge of losing my voice with teaching.
You
They
sound great.
already in the weeds tangent here, Kirk.
Yeah.
They decided that they needed to do asbestos removal in the gym,
Oh gosh.
and they finished it up last Monday. School started Tuesday. So I was unable to even get into the gym and do an inventory of what they even have until the school day started Tuesday. So just kind of a hassle from the start. But that's not the complaint. The complaint is that while they finished it, they didn't get anything back up. So we just
Oh.
have bare ceilings and half of the wall. So there's no soundproof or deadening in the gym. And already a hardwood floor with high ceilings is an echoey place.
Hmm.
This is the loudest environment I've ever been in my entire life.
So you got to really bark at them.
Yeah, you got to project big time. And even then, it's like almost impossible. I walked in there the other day and there was one person in there and I was like, "Hey," and it went like, "Hey, hey, 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 hey," all over the
Mm.
gym. Like, this is gonna be a bad day. So
I
anyway,
thought you were in a classroom setting as much as you were in the gym,
I am.
gymnasium. Okay.
By like default, I keep pulling them out of there into the auditorium because if we're playing or doing something physical, we're in the gym or outside. I'm going to keep going outside as much as possible till the weather turns. But if I have to actually give information, we just can't hear each other. So we
Yeah.
traipse up to the auditorium. Anyway, my voice is on edge, so I may be clearing my throat this episode. The classic singles versus doubles. Is it better to do one 10-mile run or two 5-mile runs in a day?
1 10-mile run. Boom. Next question.
Disagree.
No. It's circumstantial.
Yes, in theory, yeah, but I would say they're not the same. I think it's the wrong question. I think the real question is it better to do one 10-mile run or two 6-mile runs
Mm,
or a 7 and a 4 or something like that because a 5 and a 5 is not the same as a 10. I don't care what math says.
I agree with you. I agree with you there.
So I think
How
the
could
wrong question has been posed, and which is why it's
so you
impossible to
don't
answer.
think a single 10 barring health is better than 2 5s?
Well, I do, yes, but I don't
But
think it's
then
the right.
you just changed the deal on me there. You kind of slid in the back door with the 6 and 6.
I would look at it like investing, Kirk. Would you
Okay.
rather have $100 today or 50 today and 50 next year?
Today.
You would take today because of compounding interest.
Yes.
Like, it's more worthwhile to get the chunk now than to split it up. They're actually worth less. And that's how I look at mileage for running. 100-mile weeks or 2 by 50-mile weeks, like, they're not the same. 100-mile day or 2 by 50 miles in the same day, it's not the same damage. 10-mile run or 2 by 5, it's not the same benefit, duration spent in a good aerobic building zone or damage. So I don't think they're even the same question. I don't think it should be posed that way.
Oh God, I want to open a can already.
Do it. We got 15 minutes on this question.
Well, like, okay, I believe that let's call time under duress and getting the heart rate up and just keeping it there and sitting there for a longer bout at one period of time. I believe, and maybe science would or would not prove it, has to be in some vein more effective, just from like, I'm talking like a metabolic standpoint. It must. How just cycling through our glycogen system, for example, and learning how to use fat in the later half of that 10-mile run versus there's some things that we could talk about there, right? Like metabolically.
Mm-hmm.
But then I go, well, if you run 3 days a week, but then you run to 4 days a week, you're going to feel more efficient because it's more frequent cadence of exposure. If you go from 4 to 5, you're going to feel more efficient because now I'm running 5 times a week. So if I run twice a day versus once a day, is just the fact I'm exposing myself to the run motion 2 times in a day instead of one actually going to efficientize me?
Efficient
That is,
size.
yeah. I'm like starting to think like if I
Right.
want to start poking holes, would there be an argument there?
So I think that is the correct way to look at this as well. I think the first is to say, I don't think these are the same thing. The second is to say, are we talking efficiency or are we talking aerobic? Are we talking cardiac benefit? Aerobic building capacity? Like, are we talking engine or are we talking mechanics? And then I think the answer changes.
And I think doubling only makes sense and can be justified as productive is if doubling is a net positive to your daily mileage compared to if you singled. No
Correct.
matter what. You could be 8 and 4. I don't care. I would say, yeah, if you want maybe 8 and a 4 is better than a single 10 because now we're starting to
There.
flirt with the line, right? But
Yep.
I think the net must be bigger then.
So I guess my question is, why would someone want to double? What is the purpose of doubling? Like, at its core, if you had to boil it down to like a first principle level, why would anyone want to double?
Well, I mean, time's not in this part of the conversation, or
No,
is it?
just purely from the benefits. What is the benefit of doubling?
Layering in mileage.
Yeah, doing
That's it.
more.
Yeah, that's it.
More. So by doing 2 5s, the only thing you've done more is frequency. So if it's simply boiled down to doubles allow you to do more, 5 plus 5 is not more than 10. So if you struggle with running efficiency, running economy, actual mechanics of your stride, the skill of running, simply saying 2 5s is better than a 10 because I won't fatigue as much. I get to be better for each 5. And I can just dose the skill of running twice per day with no real drop off in my skill development as I get sloppy, as I fatigue, then 100% 2 5s wins. If you are trying to say, I need to build the biggest engine possible, well, 5 + 5 is not more than 10. And so it isn't more. So it's not worth doubling. You'll actually get less aerobic benefit from 2 5s than you would a 10, because in the 10, you're spending more time in effective cardiovascular building time frame, which is like 30 to 90 minutes. Let's just call it. Anything
Yes,
under
and
than
you're
that,
sitting in a state of not depletion, but you're sitting in a state of energy demand,
yeah,
which is training a system.
yeah. Yeah, the studies show that like once you get up past 20, 30 minutes, you really start reaping the rewards of aerobic work. And once you get past 90, you really start losing running economy and efficiency. It starts to plummet. And once you get past 2 hours, the difference between 2 hours and 3 hours cardiovascularly from like an aerobic capacity benefit are start to become almost negligible, but demand of recovery really rises. So the more time you can spend between 30 and 90 minutes, the better.
Hmm.
So let's say an 8-minute miler doing 2 5-mile runs now spends 10 minutes in each run in the optimal zone. It doesn't mean the other minutes are wasted, but from a cardiac building standpoint, they got 20 minutes of really, really effective work.
Mm-hmm.
But in 80 minutes, they've doubled that. Maybe a little bit more than doubled that. So again, I would steer people towards, are you trying to get better at the act of running or at the engine of running?
Now I'm going to just throw two different things in here
Okay.
for the sake of conversation. That's it. If the objective of the day is damage versus the objective of the day is recovery,
Yep.
okay, you have to look at it from those two lenses as well. Will 2 5-mile runs on a recovery day help me recover better or worse for my quality session tomorrow? On the counter side of that,
100% it would.
it might, right?
Yeah.
I think for long-term progression, probably it's still not the best bet, but you have that. And then the other thing is if we take this and sort of do the opposite, not the opposite with it, but with a quality focus, would we say, say you're training for a half marathon, 6 by a mile with 3 minutes rest once, or 3 by a mile with 3 minutes rest in the morning and 3 by a mile with 3 minutes rest in the afternoon? I don't think you're going to find a person in the world who's going to tell you, yeah, do that workout split up
Right.
if your goal is to run a better half marathon. So if you just track that logic, I still think the one shot wins in almost every case. But why does it break down so easily for quality days? But it can still be argued about on recovery days. You get what I'm saying?
I do. And I would say recovery, I would actually, if I had to choose, and when I got to choose, when I got to do whatever I wanted,
I
when I
know
was
what you're going to
running
say.
full time, all
I
my
know what
recovery days were doubles.
Were they? And I
All of
bet
them.
you sometimes doubled in the afternoon on a quality day. Just a
Yeah,
few
I did
shake up times.
sometimes. But not as much actually, because I did bigger quality days at that point. I
Hmm.
wasn't doing like double threshold or split doubles or anything. I rarely did 2 quality sessions. My quality sessions were all between 10 and 15 miles. I was
Yeah.
pretty beat since a lot of it had downhill. Anyway, my recovery was always I would go out for 5 to 6 miles in the morning and then 3 to 4 at night.
Hmm.
Always. If I was trying to get 10 a day, then I would go 6 and 4.
Hmm.
And my morning run would be just hot garbage. I think every quality run I did for like a year straight, my morning run the next day was garbage. And
Hmm.
I'd think, all right, I'm going to need a deload week. Every time I'm like, this is, I don't think there's recovering from this. And then I'd head out at like 4 or 5 p.m. for a run. And I'd be like, okay,
Feels
I
better.
think I
Yeah.
can go, like 80 or 90 minutes tomorrow. So for me personally, that split up recovery day was really important.
Hmm. Do you think a 1 10-mile run would have got you in the same place though for the next day?
I don't know where it would have put me for the next day physically. It would have put me in a bad spot mentally because I wouldn't have seen like a few shots go in at
Hmm.
the end of the day to be like, all right, I'm back, I'm ready. I would have woke up the next morning like, I don't know what's going to happen today.
Yeah.
Certainly I wouldn't recover off a 10-mile run.
Mhm.
If recovery versus just like an easy day was the question, no, I've never been in a place in my entire life where 10 miles was actual recovery. I could like be better than I was the day before, but I was certainly not ready for the next day off 10.
Mm. Well, not if you use an old pair of alpha flies.
I didn't have that then.
No, they didn't exist. Excuse me. I think the sentiment that we would agree on is like work is still valuable, whether it's done at the same time or it's split up. And if it is by necessity because your windows are tight in the morning and the evening, or you have a lunch window that's small that you can take advantage of, uh, do it. It's not a waste of your time by any means, correct?
Right.
If for some reason you actually have to split up your 6 by a mile into 2 3 by a mile sessions, which would be really, that'd be a tough day of training. I would not enjoy that day of training.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, if that is the corner you've been put in, like, okay, that's okay. This is still going to benefit you. 2 5s are going to benefit you immensely over 1
Yes.
5. You know, so like I think that just to make clear that yes, this doubling and squeezing it in and breaking it up is astronomically productive regardless. But if you had to pick and you're doing it simply by effectiveness,
Yes.
this is what we're talking about. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yes.
So where do you? Okay, actually, let's talk this out, and then
See
we
why
can
I
move to
wanted
the
to
next.
do this?
Yeah, it's fun. Well, these questions or scenarios are popping up in my head. So where? Okay, 2 5s does not equal a 10 in your mind.
Yeah.
So at what point is it like if you had to pick a 1 7 mile run or 2 5s, what do you pick? Where does it end for you?
I think 2 5s is better than a 7.
Okay, is 2 5s better than an 8? Like, where is your line? Where is just
Right.
your like?
I think it's when you get within like somewhere like 15 to 20%, 15 to 25% of volume.
So you would say like 2 5s if somebody could swing that versus just saving 8 for after work because they can't get 8 in the morning.
7.5 to 8 would fall in that equation somewhere in there. I'd rather do a 9 than 2 5s if it were just pure engine building. But if it was a recovery day, I'd probably still do 2 5s.
Then a 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious, like,
But like
if
8 to 9 is for sure the crossover. If I'm just going for a run, it's just an aerobic day, I'm doing a 9 rather than 2 5s.
okay. Yeah, just like hedging bets. Like, what if that is the circumstance? Like, somebody can get a running in the morning, but they're not willing to get up at 3:30 to do it. They'll get
Right.
up at 4 and squeeze in 4 miles, and then afterwards get in the rest of their mileage. Like, I think there's a lot of people probably dancing around that same situation.
So here's to answer that kind of indirectly. My real stance on doubles are that if you're going to double, you want to do it in a way that lets you get the maximum running in without consequences. So let's say
Yeah.
you're at a point where you can handle a 10-mile run, and
Mhm.
that is just an easy day. You could go do quality the next day. So 5 and 5 is going to be a reduction in that. And if you're to the point where you can handle a 10-mile run, you probably don't need the efficiency running economy work of 2 5s. So it's not outweighing the detriment of not
Mhm.
getting the aerobic benefits of the 10. But somewhere between, like, if 10 you can do, somewhere around 7 or 8, you're going to get the vast majority of the 10 with way less cost. So if you do that in the morning, and then let's say you do 7, and then you add another 4 or 5 at night, and that costs you nothing because 10's easy, 4 or 5's nothing.
Mhm.
The 7 in the morning didn't cost you really at all, but you got good benefits. Now you get a 7 and a 5. Suddenly you have a 12-mile day. That to me is how doubles are intended to be done, where you get the vast majority of what a longer run would give you, and you stop because there's a cliff, I believe, in aerobic running. You're
Mhm.
like, I can recover from this. I can recover from this. I can recover from this. Oh man, I'm going to feel beat up. And if you even
Mhm.
stay 1 mile short of beat up, you can run again later that day.
I agree.
And that's how I would do doubles. That's why if people are like, what's better to do doubles? 5 and 5, 6 and 4, 7 and 3. It's like, it's going to be 6 and 4 or 7 and 3 to me, because it's whatever gets you the most running in the first run without needing recovery. And then you just
Mhm.
get a tack on in the evening of whatever you can do. That's how I think about doubles.
I agree with that, by the way. The back half of, like, let's just say a 10-mile easy run. Like, some weeks when I'm carrying a good bit of fatigue, I start looking at my watch around 8, like, okay, I'm pretty much ready to be done. And I can
Mm-hmm.
feel lethargy setting in. And then some weeks when I haven't accumulated as much, I actually do get through 10 and be like, I could have kept going today. I felt pretty available. But there's often I think I got everything I needed by 8, and I should be just sort of like,
Yeah.
cutting any sort of potential damage to the day tomorrow, you know. But I think we need to do some running public math here, and we need to decide, does 5 plus 5 equal 8?
I think so.
Because I think 5 plus 5 equals 8.
I think so too. So
Uh-huh.
I think when you're new to running, very new to running, let's say a 40-minute run, you just can't do. You could probably do 2:30s that day. And so splitting it up nicely like that. Like I do believe you can dose it and double way more frequently early on than you think if you keep it short. And because early on, getting good at the act of running is very important, I don't personally believe doubles need to be saved for once you're good at running and can handle the
Mhm.
pounding. I think it's a way to split up the pounding to handle more skill work early on.
It's funny because traditional logic and what we probably have been led to believe is that doubles are an advanced step in the
Mhm.
running right journey, that once you've earned the right to run more miles, you can handle multiple stimulus per day. When I don't prescribe doubles hardly ever to new runners, by
Right.
the way, but the argument is very much there for the case that you just said. But actually, 2 10 minutes a day, if you can not run 20 in a row,
Mhm.
and may very well actually be more manageable, digestible, and probably productive, especially from an efficiency standpoint. And so it's just an interesting spin on it, which I agree with you fully that there may be a stronger case for that sector.
Yeah, if you look at just pure skill development with how we teach, let's say little kids, how we teach little kids to pick up skills, we do the activity several times per day. We don't do it for an hour early on. Now, half of that is because they don't have the just like the focus to stay
Mm-hmm.
on task for that long. But the other part is that you tend to get sloppy after a bit, but you want to dose it as often as possible. The more reps you get in, the better your skills develop and the quicker they develop. So the more often you can dose your running, the better. But early on, if you can handle just 40 minutes of running and you do 40, you might need an off day the next day. But if you
Mm-hmm.
did 10, 10, 15, 10, 10, 10, 15, 10, you could run pretty much every day early and accumulate way more reps. Now, the scientist part would say, but you're not really spending a lot of time in any good zone for developing aerobic capacity, but you're not going to off 3 40-minute runs per week anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And anything you do early on is going to make you better. So, yeah, for the average new person, they don't come to you and say, listen, I am so all in. I've never run before, but I'm in. Like, I have morning and night. Let's do it all. I'm not going to get sick of running. I already know I'm going to love it. No, they don't do that. So, you're not going to give them doubles. But if
Right.
they did come to you in like a training camp capacity and be like, I'm spending all summer with this pro group, I'd be like, let's dose you small and as often as possible. I might even triple you. Let's go run 8 minutes 3 times a day for
Be
a
a
while.
lot of be a lot of showering for some folks.
It's good.
Mm.
I believe we have hit a national crisis of not showering.
People need to shower more.
Yeah, the current trend is to not wash your hair very often. I don't know if you know this, Kirk.
Well, I know women don't wash their hair very often due to
Oh,
keeping the oils in them, Bracken.
yeah. That's I think we are at a net loss as a country for this new trend. I think we need to get back to the good old days of every time you sweat through, you rinse through.
Yeah, I don't know if
Natural oils.
I don't
Yeah.
know if looking at you, you're the person to talk about care regimen.
I'm stepping way outside my lane.
You are way out of your lane. I'm gonna bring it full circle, and we're gonna end this and move to the next one, and that is 2 5 mile runs is not as good as a single 10 mile run for the majority of people as far as metabolic advancement.
Yep.
I'm gonna leave it there.
There you go.
All right, what's the next one?
Next one up. Very similar, Kirk. I told you there are patterns here. Would you rather run high mileage with one quality workout per week, medium mileage with 2 quality workouts per week, or low mileage with 3 quality workouts per week?
And there's no mileage parameters.
No, I mean, let's call it 80 to 100 with 1 quality workout, 50 to 60 with 2, or 20 to 30 with 3.
And I'm
30,
equally
60,
health
90 is what you could call it.
health isn't health and time isn't taken into the equation here.
I mean, it's almost impossible to separate those from this conversation.
Yeah.
But just theoretically, what would you build the best fitness off? Big mileage, but very little quality work, moderate and moderate, or low and high?
Short to medium term race fitness, medium with 2. Long term development, if I weren't racing for a year or 6 months, I would take high with 1. So I
Mhm.
would say it's situational, but I
Very much
wouldn't pick low in
situational.
3. I would never. There's never a situation in which I would pick low in 3 because I don't like bite-sized workouts.
I
Those
hear
are
you.
for those are for fools.
I hear you, but I don't believe you. So I'm going to ask you the question you asked me. At
Mhm.
what race distance does that stop being true? Your statement right there. What
Which
is the
one?
longest race distance you were training for that you actually would accept 30 miles per week in 3 quality workouts?
I'm waffling between 800 meters and a mile.
We keep coming back to this distance. This
Yeah.
is the cutoff distance.
What about you?
Same. I'd probably say
But those would still be 2
800 for
pillar
sure. I
days.
would
But
100%.
those would be like 2 pillar workout days, and then one we're doing like starts or 150s where we're just building into like it wouldn't be. I still wouldn't put like 3 like
Well, I
big.
ran 20 to 30 miles a week in college and ran the 800 in the mile, and I was underdeveloped in the mile. So I don't believe it would translate well to the mile,
We did 2 in
but it
college.
could.
But you do 2 a week, and then you race once. Now those are 3 stimulus
Well,
a
that
week,
counts.
right? Racing counts as stimulus
That counts as a quality workout.
for sure. So there's
So
3 right there.
so you wouldn't be able to do 2 on top of that in this scenario.
I mean, not if you're racing, because then it's 3 plus a race, and that's 4, and you'll be dead.
Right. So in this, I'm counting a race as a quality day.
Okay.
For the physiological benefit of this trainer, of this athlete, this theoretical athlete. So I believe 800 for sure. You can run 30 miles per week and be world class with enough speed work. And we have people currently
Mhm.
that run that way,
It's
but
fun to
less and
see.
less each
Like
year.
it's fun to see. I actually think, yeah, you'll see people drop down to the who's running 70-mile weeks,
There are
which is
800
kind of
meter guys
crazy.
who currently run 70.
At least 50, like the ones that it's their focus. I bet you like a Josh Hoey is running 50, 60-mile weeks. I'd be surprised if he wasn't.
Yeah.
Splitting the distances. We don't see many doing it these days.
Who is the last great 800, 1500 split? Not someone who
Oh,
ran a great one or the other, someone who consistently did both.
Seb Coe.
Oh, I think we have more recent than that.
We do. Who ran a good 8:15?
He's lost to history already, and he was scandalous to begin with, but McLuffy.
I couldn't even tell you his stats.
Oh, he was Moroccan. He won a world championship in the 1500. Also ran a lot of great eights.
Know who our greatest prospect is to do so right now? And he's had a bad year. Hobbs Kessler.
Yeah. Well, he's the example. He's low mileage.
He doesn't he run like 30 a week?
30
And
to
he's a
40,
miler.
no long run.
Yeah, no long run. But Hobbs, I mean, he was 5th in the Olympics in the 1500,
Yeah.
and he made the Olympic finals in the 8 at the Olympics. This year's been a down year. He's been like a second behind any real race this year. But anyways, he's our hope. He's only 20 now, 21. Maybe he could be the next.
I believe he will be. Yeah.
Anyways, tangential.
All right. So here's the problem. There's no medium high option because I think you can do medium high with 2, but it's low, medium, or high. And the difference between medium high is bigger than the difference between low and medium. Because if
I
you
agree with
double 25, you get 50. You double 50, you get 100. And that's how people look at this. Medium mileage for most people listening to this podcast is like 30 to 40 miles per week.
100%.
50 to 60 is already high. So the jump to true high mileage, 80 to 100, is like astronomically bigger than the jump from low to medium.
Yeah, I agree with that. The it depends answer is like so rampant with this question. It depends what race you're training for, and it depends what phase of your training cycle you're in, right? Like both of those are big depends. But if I had to pick one, like you put me in a corner and I have to sit here year round, whether I want to race a marathon or I want to race a 5K, I'm still picking medium and 2.
I am as well, which is funny because during our coaching series we had years ago at this point, every single coach, ourselves included, picked high mileage with a minimum amount of anaerobic work.
Mm-hmm.
But you need some.
Correct.
So, yeah, if I could If I could get up to 60 miles per week in 2 qualities of whatever I wanted, I would choose that. I don't know if you can be world class off that, but for the listener of this podcast, I think that's the sweet spot.
I'm sitting 50 to 60 in 5 runs a week on 2 quality, and I'm probably leaving something on the table, but I have been working through injuries.
Mhm.
My knee is actually, knock on wood, almost back to 100%. I got some shin issues that pop up. So point being, this is by design. If I could do more, I may. But I think I'm seeing about 95 to 97%, I truly believe, of my potential on my training regimen. Granted, it's a lot of non-sexy weeks for decades now,
Yeah.
right? So there's always that, like running medium mileage and staying healthy year in and year out is absolutely going to net you a better performance and fitness than swinging big, taking time off, swinging big, taking time off. I'm going to pick 50 to 60 miles a week all day, every day, just based on longevity
Yeah.
for our listener base. If you were a pro marathoner,
Yeah.
truthfully, if you were a pro marathoner running 100 miles a week, I mean, does that change? Does that change anything?
I think it would change for any distance 5K and above for me
Hmm.
if I was trying to be a pro, if I could do it the way it actually would be done. But if I have to stick to polarized training in terms of defining what's quality and what's not, then I got to drop down to 2 quality, because running 100-mile weeks with 1 quality means that you're going to get into that gray zone and end up cutting down a lot of your runs. That's just the way high mileage running works. You
Mm-hmm.
have more runs out there. You end up just getting rolling some days and you go with it, especially if you're only doing 1 quality per week. You have a lot of flex days in there that just have partial components that would be fine, but they wouldn't abide by this definition. So if I
Mm-hmm.
could just do the real life, like real world, let's stop like pretending like it won't happen. I'm going to have gray zone days in there. I'm going to have 15-mile runs where the last 2 or 3, like I'm kind of ripping with the boys on accident. I choose 100-mile weeks and 1 quality per week every time. But if I had
Yeah.
to polarize it, I can't do that on 100.
And you make a really good point. When we were running summer volume, and I was running about 70s in college in summer, and that was a lot for me.
Mhm.
And usually I'd end up sort of injured and have to back off. So it was all for naught. But 70s, we had no scripted workouts in the summer. At least I didn't. And we were a national championship cross country team. We won nationals on a summer program that was like, just go hit your mileage. And if you feel good some days, you can run a little harder.
Right.
And if you feel tired, and I bet you 50% of my running was gray zone, maybe more. You
Okay.
start easy, right? And then you're like, today I feel good and I'm going to pound home. And that high mileage athlete, their midweek long run ends up being a slight cut down. Their long run, they end up like, hey, I'm going to try to progress through this. I'm not even paying attention to pace or watch necessarily, but like, I'm going to start easy and be bullshitting with my buddy. And by the end, we might be pseudo racing each other because we felt like it that day.
Yeah.
Like, where does that fall? Like, that happens a lot in the
Yeah.
high mileage camp.
I am not that athlete. I run quality sessions, I run recovery sessions, and I run easy sessions.
Mm-hmm.
But the only times in my life where I've tried just to hit big mileage and I'm not pressing for quality work, or I might have one thing scheduled per week, those are the only times in my life I've just started running a lot of things off feel and end up like, I just went out 10, came back, and like I ended up ripping the last 6. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm back to like, those are the only times in my life I've gone totally by feel, off script. Some runs I end up just pressing. It's because when you don't have a big effort the day before, you don't need a big recovery the day after.
Right.
And so, yeah, I would choose that. That would be my ideal, but that doesn't fit in the nice little like boundaries of this little experiment we're doing here.
If I could like hack the system, it would be like right in the middle. It would be like 60 to 70. And then it would be a big quality day. And then if I wanted to like a long run with purpose,
Yep.
if I had to like cheat it and get it done that way, or even just a long run with optional cut down, if you're feeling good, like I think that could still probably get you right where you want to be.
I agree with that.
Yeah. But so if you had to pick one though, race distance aside, so you are picking the medium and 2?
For the every man, for the every woman, medium and 2. For the pro, I think I would have to go big volume.
Yeah, but that's not going to, what if you're a 5Ker, which a lot of 5Kers are running 100-mile weeks? You can't, can you
You're right.
really be
I got to
5K
stick.
ready?
I got to
You
stick
can't.
medium with quality.
You have to, because you're not gonna be frequently exposed enough to even the efficiency piece and just talk about like the zone 5 hate your life anaerobic VO2 max component of the 5K. It's the entire race.
Yeah,
I just feel like you need more exposure to it if you're going to be race sharp. You might be able to go run well, but you're not going to be ready for a world championship off of that.
I agree.
Yeah. Next one.
Is the long run even important? If so, for who? Are long runs overrated or underrated?
I like you. Normally, you get to answer the questions first in the Q&A, and I feel like this is the first chance I'm getting to in a long time. It's kind of fun for me.
It's freeing.
It really is. I'm not playing cleanup every time because you usually answer well, and then I have nothing noteworthy to add. It's another it depends situation. I'm going to say no until it does. And I am going to
No to
say
what? Are they even needed or are they overrated?
I think long runs are overrated until they're not, until a given race distance duration.
We could stop right there. I agree fully, and we could move on.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
I do. I agree with
I
that.
think if you're a 5K and your longest long run is 10 miles, but you do 3 of them throughout the week, and then you have other quality sessions filtered in, you're going to be probably as prepared and maybe carry less fatigue for the work that matters. I mean, look at Jakob Ingebrigtsen. How long does Jakob Ingebrigtsen? I mean, argue okay. Now
What do
you
they
can.
never go past?
I think an hour.
I think they do a lot of they do a 75-minute run per week. They never go past 90.
Okay, but I mean, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, he could arguably go up to the 10K.
Well, he
At this
has a
point.
world cross country.
Oh, sure, across. There you
He's
go. Yeah,
never been beaten.
and he does not do a long run. I don't
No,
even know if they call it a long run.
they do because
They
it's
do.
long for them.
Okay. So point
That's the
being,
irony of all this, right? Like, what
I
is
can
long?
I can tell you that if you're talking about long-term development and going and getting mileage in and time on feet, I still think there's like a great benefit to that. Even going for a 15-mile long run as a 5K athlete, I think long-term probably has some benefit. But I don't think until the actual factor of muscle damage, like you just took too
Right.
many steps and now your legs are gone, whether it's in a mountain race or like for me, like you start talking half marathon distance and longer, and you just have to be ready for that stride hitting the earth 20,000 steps plus, like you might get in any of those longer races. And at that point, you need to build up your resistance to structural damage. It has no bearing on your aerobic abilities whatsoever. I really don't think so. Like that long run at some point, diminishing returns, we do it because we need to be protected structurally from the damage of our half marathon trail race that's going to take us 3 hours. We just need to build up that portion of it. But I think systemically, like from an aerobic standpoint, I think maybe half marathon and up at best. I think you could run a good half marathon on 11-mile long runs if it
For
was done
sure.
right. Yeah.
And so I agree with you on everything. And I
Okay.
think the real important question is, what is a long run? It is not a time duration, I don't believe. There is a time duration beyond which it for sure should be considered long, but it's for sure not a mileage distance. It is the point at which you now cannot consider this easy anymore. Like, it's the point at which you need greater recovery because you've exceeded the time on feet that your body can just absorb and move on. And so early on, a long run is going to be less than an hour. You're going to need 2 days to get over a 50-minute run early on. Eventually, it's going to be 60, then 75, then 90, then 2 hours. And we know scientifically anything past 2 hours is diminishing returns aerobically. But there are like escalating returns on return on investment from impact and durability. So it's like a sliding scale of what the long run really means, but it's like the marathon. Do you need to go over or under 20 miles? Like so-and-so ran a great marathon only doing 18, and so-and-so, the pros, they'll go 25 or 30. It's like, yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
the pros get 22 done before you get 15 done. And
Mm-hmm.
so their time on feet was exponentially shorter. They got 20 done in under 2 hours. Like,
Right.
that might have been a medium long run for them. So
Right.
I I'm muddying the waters now, but I'll make it clear by saying my dividing line is the half marathon. I think half the people can run a great half without ever running a long run, and the other half can't. But I
I think
think
if you're, and I think it has to do with how fast you are. I
for
think
sure.
I think if you're a 70-minute half marathoner like I am, close 71, I don't think I really do need a long run. I could probably get there. But if you're a 2-hour half marathoner, we're changing the game, right? Do you agree with that? Like the two
Yeah,
hour half marathoner probably actually needs longer time duration, which might result in more mileage runs than the faster half marathoner.
I would agree. I would put the number for me if I had to. I said it's not a number or a time, whatever. I'm going to. It's 90 minutes. I think most people can get all the way up to their potential on up to 90-minute long runs.
Even if they're a 2.5 hour half marathoner.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you can get almost all the way there on that. Now, I would say I would then put the 2-hour run almost into skill development.
Hmm.
From just an engine standpoint, I don't see a need for most people to ever go past 90 minutes. But like you said, until your race distance demands that you can handle that. And not just handle it, like excel in those deteriorated conditions.
Mm-hmm. I know structurally I 22-mile long runs and marathon training 2 weeks apart, for example, in my
Yep.
peak weeks. I'll tell you what those legs felt like at the back half of that. And it was the aerobic system wasn't the issue. It wasn't the problem anymore. It was like
Nope.
this body wasn't ready to get hit that many times without taking damage. And that's the fact of it.
So again, I'm just drawing the line at half marathon. If you're
Mm-hmm.
under a half marathon, I think you're worrying about too much if you're stressing over a long run. Don't worry about it. Go get another quality session in.
I actually think like if you're healthy and available, I think 15 or 16 for a long run for a half is about sweet spot. And that's only 2 to 3 miles further than race distance. I think you're in a great spot. I don't even think you need to go to 18, which some like if you're focused on the half, a lot of people will go up to 18. And I agree with you in the marathon. I don't think there's a place to go past 20 for most people. I do prescribe it once in a while, 22,
Yeah.
but that's usually for the athletes who are quicker than anything.
Yeah. The faster you are, the longer you need to run because you get
Mm-hmm.
it done faster.
Yeah.
And you're not trying to survive the late miles as much as you are trying to accelerate the late miles.
But I don't think long runs are a bad thing for most, and it's okay to go longer. But you're
Yes.
saying how necessary are they to get
Yeah.
every ounce of my fitness out of myself?
Necessary. I don't think anyone needs to go past 90 minutes until you're a marathoner. Now, is it good for you? And do I like it? And do I do it? Yes. There are very few things more enjoyable to me running wise than 2 hours on a beautiful trail.
How many slogs have we gone out for between 2 and 3 hours together when we get together? That's all we do.
Almost every time. They're super beneficial, but you don't need that until you're training for something that demands that. And I think most races, half marathon under, do not demand it.
Okay, let's do this. Let's do this thing right now, and then let's move to the next question. Ideal, if barring health, time, mileage is all accessible to us, the ideal long run duration blanket statement for each distance. So we're going to start at the 800 meters and go to the marathon.
Okay.
You don't know anything about this person. This is just the advice you give. What's the longest long run an 800 meter needs to run at one time?
Needs 40 minutes, but I would say 60 to 70 minutes.
Still think aerobic development is that important. They should go 60 minutes for a long run, 800 meter.
I do, unless they are a sprint based runner. Then I would not ever put them past 30 or 40.
They're a 400 meter runner racing
Yes.
up.
And then even in that case, I may not run past 20, honestly.
Yeah, I was going to say 3 miles.
Yeah. Needs 3 miles.
But as soon as if they're an 1800, 1500 split, that changes like drastically.
60 to 70 minutes.
So I think, okay, so 60 to 70 for both 800 and milers.
Yeah. Now, even an 80 mile per week runner for a miler, I wouldn't put past 70 to 75 minutes with the purpose of getting better at the mile for that. Off season, I might work up a little, but no, I wouldn't. 60 to 75 minutes still.
Yeah, we'd go 90 minutes to plus in the like the winter months when you were gone, but then we would be 75 at most.
Yeah.
During season. Okay, 5K.
Let's say 60 and 75 for 800 and mile.
Ideal long run for a 5K runner. If you
75 to 80.
So here I'm picking 12 miles arbitrarily. I like the 4 times the race distance for some reason, whatever that takes you. I like 12. I think the slower athlete, you might need to tailor that back. I spent a lot of years making 10 miles my long run on the weekends
Mhm.
when I was like hobby racing 5Ks. I was running 4 days a week, not high mileage. My long run was 10. And when I started drawing that out more, I started seeing help
Okay.
progress. So that's just a personal. Okay. 10K.
90, 75 to 90, depending on which end of the spectrum you're coming from.
Half marathon.
90,
Marathon.
2 hours.
So you're going time based, not distance based on all this. You're preferring that.
Yeah, I am.
It just covers your bases because that lets one person run 20 miles in 2 hours if they're running 6-minute pace, and it lets somebody else run 16 in 2 hours if they're running 8-minute pace, right?
Yeah, but that being said, for the marathon, I really do think there's a place for some 30 to 40K runs in there. Some 2.5 hour runs I do think there's a place.
Okay.
Basically, I would say 75 minutes or less for 5K and under, 90 minutes up to half marathon, and then race dependent past that. But I'd just be comfortable if I had to choose one thing. Everyone run 90 minutes.
Everybody just go 90. Yeah.
Make that your most frequent medium long to long run, and then choose your once or twice per month race specific need on top of that.
Yeah. 75 with quality or 2 hours for time on foot for the marathon. Yeah.
Beautiful.
All right. What's the last one?
Last one. Oh. This is more of a statement that people have had shouted at them. So there's an exclamation point at the end of this. You must build aerobic base before starting quality work.
That's it. That's the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. You just do not enter quality work too quickly. Build up your aerobic base, take your base building, and then move into quality.
That's like saying only work on your 3-point shot, but forget about free throws and layups.
I think it'd be the opposite. I think you're not allowed to shoot a 3-pointer until you can
Okay, you
master.
get what I'm saying. Like why? Like you're not going to be prepared to play the game.
Correct.
So strong disagree with that.
Strong disagree.
I
Is
think
there ever a time where you would agree with that statement?
like go plod every day, all day.
Stay zone 2 or under until you've built up your quote unquote aerobic base. Ever a time.
If you have a heart condition and then you shouldn't.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'd say a medical reason is the only time I would agree with that statement. What about the wider the base, the taller the pyramid, Kirk?
I've said that before. I probably said that exact sentence on here, and I agree with that. But the pyramid is still built with many different components, right? So, like, of course, you want to build up mileage and time on feet, but you don't want to leave important components to the structure of that pyramid out either. And base is it's a misconception that base is just go run slow and easy in zone 2. That's not what base is. It's how you dose, how much you dose at those certain times. In base mileage, maybe it is a lot of zone 2 more than your 90%, but there's at least now 10% focus on at least your efficiency work with finishers or a short speed day to at least touch systems. Like base work doesn't mean go easy every day. Base work is maybe I have more focus on time on feet and less focus on quality, but that will shift at some point as the pyramid rises. That's how I look at it.
So you said there's other components that you're missing out on. So what needs to be in place from day one of starting your first build or your off-season build? What are those components that you would be missing out on if you neglected them for only zone 2 running?
Efficiency work at faster paces, power up, a stride that requires power output of any power production more than recovery type effort. So I would say just that, like muscle recruitment, we'll call it muscle fiber recruitment type stride. I think that.
Yeah.
And then I think if you're not like, if you are actually not spending time in threshold, even if you're a brand new runner, like you're not progressing at a rate in which is important. I think so. Like, I actually still think there should be a threshold component in a base off-season phase, and there should be a higher turnover. It doesn't need to be dosed and super saturated, but it needs to be there. So I would say both. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you. I think all components should be present all year round in a perfect world, assuming you can, again, medically handle that. And I count stress fractures as medically handle it. I count your soft tissue not being strong enough, medically handle it. I count all those things. But a dose of some sort is, I think, mandatory. And there's a just a scientifically proven phenomenon that drives all of this conversation, which is that as you build anaerobic capacity, there is an inverse relationship on your aerobic capacity. So as you start going towards VO2 max and faster training, eventually that erodes the aerobic capacity you've built up, which is why people say you build up your aerobic capacity, get it as high as you can, and then start adding in like tempo and threshold work, and that keeps it topped off. And then when you get closer to the race, you add in race specific and faster work, and then you do that in as you peak, and then you can't hold it very long and your aerobic starts to erode, and then you need to refresh it in the off season. That is a scientific fact. But it also is not a scientific fact at every level of dose. And we forget that. And that's why people shy away from doing quality work out of season, because they just keep remembering someone told them anaerobic work hurts your aerobic capacity.
Right.
But not always, not at certain dosage levels. And they also forget that it's also a scientifically proven fact that fast running benefits your slow running. The
Mm-hmm.
better you are at the form of running fast, the more efficient you are at the form of running slow. And so you actually get more out of your slow running if you're also practicing fast running. And that should not be discounted simply out of fear of being counterproductive with how much speed work I'm doing compared to the aerobic work I'm doing. So I'm with you that the skill component must always be practiced. And from some amount, engine building should also be practiced, but it's not the prime focus.
Well, yeah, if let's call it anaerobic type work starts being, it's replacing aerobic work exclusively, and then your ratios have shifted immensely. It will erode over time. You'll have a sweet spot that'll last you 2 to 6 weeks where you're going to be like, I am the man, I am the woman. It's going to all be great until it suddenly you look back and say, I think I raced my best 3 weeks ago and I don't feel that way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when you pivot too quickly and forget about rob Peter to pay Paul, right? Like you have a great run and it's over fairly quickly,
Yeah.
which it's easy to do when you have races coming up. What would you say is your like if you had your way the week that you would just replicate over and over? Let's say for 3 months in the off season, because I have a thought on what I would do. Like, here's your week: run a bunch of zone 2, throw in one, just you literally rev the engine to like marathon pace plus 15 seconds, and you just sit in it for 6 to 8 miles. Let's call it 30 to 60 minutes. Let's say you do that once, and then once a week maybe you tack on some 60-60s
Yeah.
somewhere. It would be really simple like that. It would be like, just get your heart rate up into thresholdy-ish stuff and stay there once, but like not even like the lower end of threshold. Like just touch the system. And then one where you're ripping, maybe run 5K pace or faster for 60-60s, but it's still, that's small dose. That's what I would, something like that.
Yeah.
What'd you
Perfect world, no rules. I would move from a 7-day
do?
to a 10-day.
Mm,
I would put one more extra day in between every quality workout.
mm.
And I would take every quality workout and reduce it by 25 to 35%.
I love that. So you do
So
one long run every 10 days.
one long run every 10 days, 2 quality workouts every 10 days. But instead of 10 by 1,000, I'm running 6 to 7 by 1,000.
So you do like day 3, day 6, day 9, rest day. Day 3, day 6, day 9, rest day.
Exactly. And I would use the extra energy I have to run more volume. I'm reducing by 20 to 40%, let's say, my individual quality workouts, and I'm adding one day in between, and I'm taking all of that extra, and I'm bumping my easy runs from 8 miles to 10 or from 10 to 12. And my long run, I'm going to extend out a little. I said I only need 75 minutes in season, but I'm going to try to get to 90 or 100 minutes off season. I only need 90 minutes in season, but I'm going to build to 110, 120 minutes off season. And then when it's time to get a little more serious, I remove out the extra volume and I put it back into extra intervals. I think that's as simple and as complicated as I would need to make it.
know what I think I would like about the 10-day, which I've never done in my life, is that I find when I'm in like training patterns, even right now, I'm feeling fairly uninspired right now. We don't need to talk about it, but I'm shifting to my fall hobby, and so my running goals kind of I'll still be training. Don't you worry, folks. But my emotional investment is less.
Hmm.
And I don't always find myself like I'm not craving or looking forward to my long runs on the weekends. It's like a little too soon. If I had like another 2 or 3 days in between there, I feel like I'd be like craving and I could tell I need it. But the
Yeah.
7 day almost feels a little too soon sometimes, where I think stretching it out might actually like make me look forward to it more just emotionally. Could you see that being the case for
Yep.
yourself?
And I did 9 to 10 day for a long time.
Mm,
And when you're writing the 9 to 10 day schedule, it's a little bit of an anxious problem to do because you're a hungry athlete at that moment. You're like, this is too much time. I'm not going to get to this stuff quick enough. I'm going to lose fitness because I'm taking too long in between each one. And the
mhm.
reality is you're probably not going to. But when you're low on motivation, you find yourself, or just in a regular training cycle, you're always looking forward to the next thing because you're always recovered and then have a day to just run and enjoy life. And then you start looking forward to, hey, you know what I could go for? Is that next interval session was going to be kind of awesome.
There's power to craving your next session versus like the dread of like I'm still kind of
Yeah.
physically and mentally wiped from training this week, and now I have another big ask that can be tough. I mean, it's how you build fitness sometimes too, but it's yeah. I might waffle. I might play around with that this off season, to be honest with you.
It's beautiful until you have a work life that requires weekends to be the times you do certain things and weekdays prevent access to certain things. If you can have a schedule where you can just say, all right, my long run is Saturday this week and it is Wednesday next week and it's Friday the week after. If you can do that and it doesn't negatively impact your life, your relationship with running, I can almost guarantee will get instantly better.
Probably a pretty small sector of
But
our
it's
listener base, but
it's a
yes,
small
yeah.
sector. And
Especially in
like,
the winter when you're dealing with limited daylight,
yeah.
when people would experiment, like, okay, it gets light at 7:30, it gets dark at 4:30. You tell me where my long run's going to go if it's not during the workday, right?
Up until last week, I have worked outside of with you and let's say Rich, I've worked entirely for myself. And even you and I can say like, "Hey, I really want to get something in. Can we do this a different day?" Like I've had as much flexibility as most adults can have with their professional life, and I still can't make anything other than a 7 day work because even just kid schedule.
Right, right, right.
So yeah, I understand that it's not realistic for most people, but I have someone right now that's switching over to a 9 or a 10 day and they're
Hmm.
going to try it out.
You have the flexibility. We might that might be a really good fall approach for me, actually, to be honest, when I'm
Yeah.
spending my weekends doing other hobbies. All right, I'm happy today. Are you happy? Do you have more that you want to get into?
No, I've got 30 minutes till class starts. I got to go have a lozenge, rest my throat, and then go get to work.
I'm good. Have a Robitussin.
Robitussin. I haven't heard
Uh
that word
huh.
in a while.
And the old Robitussin. One time in college, I lost the little cap, to dose Robitussin.
Yeah.
Anybody take Robitussin MD or DM knows it's not much they tell you to take. It's like half a cap. And well, I didn't have one. I lost it. So I just took a couple gulps out of the bottle. I started feeling real goofy for a couple hours after that. And then I understood. I mean, an episode of The Simpsons came on. I found myself crying during it. And I was like, what's going on with you, Kirk? And I didn't know that Robitussin could do that to you at the time. Anyways, I don't need to tell that story.
I think you do. I think every insight into why Kirk is the way he is good for the audience.
that Robitussin story wasn't part of molding my
One
future
OD on
self.
Robitussin 20 years ago, and you've never been the same.
I felt real goofy. That's funny. Anyways. All right. I think that's it, huh?
Yeah. See you guys next Tuesday.
Thanks, folks.